Good morning and happy Labor Day.
Good morning.
Now, Labor Day is one of those intermediary days, all right? And it signifies the end of the summer season, the summer of going to the beach and doing all those wonderful things. Now, I know that I promised you that during the summertime, all right, because of the heat and everything else, I would only do one nugget. But Labor Day is sort of like in between, So the bad news is that you're going to get 2 nuggets today. All right, so I don't know if you're like me, but when I hear a gospel story that I've heard before, I sort of tune off. I said, I've heard this before. I know this story by heart. And this morning, I just want to give you another image of this gospel story. All right, so Jesus, in his magnificence, all right, performs another cure. All right, he performs a cure on a person who can't hear and can't speak. But if we concentrate on the miracle, all right, and that is the miracle, all right, he lets this person hear and speak. All right, I think we miss the beauty of the message. What is the beauty of that message? I think that it is something that we don't really recognize. We often talk about Jesus as the Son of God. All right, we emphasize his divinity. But in emphasizing his divinity, we sort of forget that he was human, that he was fully human. And we forget that. And that is the beauty of today's gospel as far as I'm concerned. It is Jesus' humanity. All right, in order to talk about Jesus' humanity and our humanity, all right, we have to go back and talk about the lizard brain. We've talked about the lizard brain and the monkey brain before. All right, every living thing has self-preservation. All right, you can hang a flower in your window, flower bouquet. And what happens? Over a period of days, every flower in that basket will turn towards the sun. They will twist and turn to face the sun, because that gives them life. That's self-preservation. You can walk in a dense forest, and you can look at 2 tree trunks that are separated by no more than a yard. All right, one is an oak and one is a pine. And you follow those tree trunks up, and all of a sudden you see these dead limbs. And you say to yourself that those trees must be dead. But you follow up more, and all of a sudden at the very top, in the canopy of the forest, there is growth on these 2 trees. All right, because they're getting the sunlight. Unfortunately, the limbs that don't get the sunlight die. It's the same thing in the animal kingdom. All right? It's the same thing with us. Fight or flight. We've heard that expression. We know that expression. All right? When you're confronted with a dangerous situation, you have 2 options. You can run for it, or if you can't run from it, you have to fight it. That's self-preservation. We all have that. That is called our lizard brain, our monkey brain. Jesus had that. Jesus was fully human. Jesus had that monkey brain, that lizard brain. And what does the lizard brain tell us to do? All right, it tells us that whenever we see something that is the same, it's safe. But whenever we see something that's different, right, it's danger. Safe, is something that is the same. Danger is something that's different. All right, the difference can be color. It can be different language. All right, or it can be somebody who is deformed. And if you're like me, all right, when I see somebody who is deformed, who has a disease, who might have cerebral palsy and is spasmodic, or who can't hear or can't speak or is blind, I tend to be reticent. I tend to back away, all right? Because that's my lizard brain saying that person is different. Be careful. Jesus had that same lizard brain. And the beauty of this morning's gospel, all right, is that he is presented with a person who is different. All right, who is a person who doesn't have full faculties, a person who is speech impaired and hearing impaired. Now, I had the benefit years ago when I retired. Now, when you work in federal law enforcement, the federal government decides that at 57, you can no longer do your job. All right? The federal government says that nobody in the private industry can fire you because of your age. Yet in the federal law enforcement, their own people, they're saying at 57 you can no longer do you're retired. So at 57 I'm retired, all right? And Bernie and I can't afford 2 houses, so we sell our main house in Scarborough and move up to our lake house, lake cottage. And we wanted to do something different, so we looked in the paper and there was an organization called Good Neighbors, all right, and they ran group homes for the mentally challenged. So Bernie and I signed up and we were accepted for a position. And my first day I had fear and trepidation. Easy for you to say. All right. And because I was going into an atmosphere that I had no knowledge of, really, right? And after working there a while, you know, like there were 2 houses, 2 group homes, you know, like mirror houses. Each house had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, bathroom, and a living room. And in each house there were 2 occupants. You know, the house that I was usually working in, the 2 occupants, you know, like were Randy and Errol. And on the other side it was Morgan and Elena. And I drew a close relationship with this Errol, right, who was a few years younger than I was, but severely mentally incapacitated. All right, and he was a lovely man, and he didn't have any teeth, all right. You probably remember Geraldo Rivera doing the expose on Willowbrook in Staten Island. Well, every state had a Willowbrook, all right, and eventually, because of Geraldo Rivera, you know, like every state was forced to look at their Willowbrooks. And they closed those Willowbrooks and made group homes, and that's why these 4 individuals were in this group home. They had come out of that state institution. And Errol didn't have a tooth in his head, all right? And I asked the people, I said, why, you know, did he have problems with his teeth? And they said, no. They said that Errol was in a state institution ever since a young child, all right? And he was sexually abused, all right? And his defense on being sexually abused was to bite the person, all right? And because, you know, they couldn't stand having somebody bite the staff, all right, they pulled every one of his teeth, right? So he was toothless since a young child, right? Errol and I had a mutual bond, you know, like, and it was really a beautiful thing. And to tell you the God's honest truth, all right, I spent 27 years as a probation officer and was never assaulted once. All right, now Errol loved me, and I knew that, and I loved him, and he knew that. Okay, but Errol could go off, and we never knew what would set him off. But when he went off, he was violent, and he clocked me a couple of times. All right, broke the skin once, broke my glasses. You know, like, and all of a sudden he's very apologetic and he picks the broken glasses up. He says, "You can fix this." So, I mean, that's you know, like my experience, all right, with getting to get rid of my lizard brain. It's concentrated on Jesus. And Jesus had that same lizard brain, all right? Because he was fully human. He had that same lizard brain. And yet, in this morning's gospel, they present to him this deformed human being. All right? His lizard brain is telling him, that's different. All right? I got to be careful. And yet, he overcomes that. He grabs this person, takes him away from the crowd, all right, and he heals them. Okay, that to me is the beauty, you know, like of this gospel story. It's not the miracle, all right? Jesus performed many miracles. It's the fact that he was able to overcome his lizard brain. It's not the first time that he did that, all right? There's an episode, you know, like in... you know, my mind this morning is just going. Greg did.
The Chosen?
The Chosen. Good. All right, The Chosen. All right, and the episode is Jesus saying amongst the apostles, he says, we're going to Jerusalem, but I'm going by way of Samaria. And one of the apostles, and I believe that it's Peter, but I don't know, you know, Peter, I'm going to say it's Peter. Peter says, I know the way to go to Jerusalem. We don't have to go to Samaria. And Jesus says, we're going to Samaria. And Peter says, well, we go to Samaria, we're going to die. All right, it's the same thing as if you were going to hitchhike from New Jersey, all right, to Times Square. All right, and you're hitchhiking at the George Washington Bridge. The guy picks you up and he says, where are you going? He says, I'm going to Times Square. He says, well, I'll get you as far as Manhattan, but I'm going on, you know, to Queens. And he drops you off at the tip of Manhattan. You got to walk through Harlem to get to Times Square. It's the same idea. All right, you're walking through an area of difference. Jesus did that because he wanted to kill his lizard brain. He wanted to touch base with the Samaritans. You knew the Jews and the Samaritans hated each other with a passion. But he went there because he was overcoming his lizard brain. Right? To me, that's the beauty of this morning's gospel. Right? Jesus, being fully human, is fighting, all right, his instincts to be something different. All right, your second nugget. We're talking about a person who cannot hear and cannot speak. We're talking about Jesus reaching out to that person. I want you to imagine for a second, right, you're that person. All right, Jesus is reaching out to you this morning. He's reaching out to me this morning. All right, because there are times when we do not hear him. There are times that we are deaf to him. Is that true? I know it is with me, all right? He's reaching out to us. He's asking us to please hear him, all right? And if we do hear him, all right, are we afraid to speak the truth that he has given to us. If we do hear him, if we do hear his message, to reach out to those people, all right, that our lizard brain tells us to be careful of, do we listen to that? And are we able to speak the truth? Are we able to reach out to those people the same way that Jesus did? All right, so when Jesus says, follow me, he's not saying, do the miracles that I'm doing, because we know that we don't have that power. All right, what he is saying is that overcome your lizard brain. All right, do what I do. Don't be afraid of the people that look different than you, that speak different than you, or might be physically disabled. Namaste.
Namaste.